All right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm James. As you hopefully saw in our keynote earlier, I work on a developer community team. And one of my favorite subjects in the entire world is MCPs. However, Jorge and someone else decided to give a talk on MCPs. So we both submitted the same talk, basically on MCPs. And I was like, oh, you guys can do MCP. I'll do my other favorite topic, which is building mobile and desktop applications with .NET, which is what I've been doing for over 14 years. That's why I'm here in front of you today, because I worked at Xamarin. I was a Xamarin developer before joining Microsoft through our acquisition of actually building and shipping production mobile and desktop applications from a single C# code base. And I absolutely love it every single day. And now I get to sprinkle a little bit of AI. We'll see how much the internet works or not for this. But that's just at the end as a bonus. Now, what's really cool is that as I've been developing mobile and desktop applications across iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows for the last 14, 15 years, things have changed vastly, and not just how we develop applications, but the UI frameworks, how we share more code, how we develop and publish to the app stores, and how we continuously try to take advantage of the latest features. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this session. If you did want to go to an MCP talk, then go over. I won't be offended, I swear, to the other talk as well, which I'm sure is fantastic. I'll sprinkle a little bit of MCP magic into my AI section as well. We'll see how it goes. Now, as Glenn and I talked about, .NET specifically is really that platform to build for anything, on any platform, for any platform. Whether you're building cloud or web or desktop applications or mobile or game, you can infuse them with AI, use amazing developer tools and AI productivity assistance. You can build on Windows, Linux, and Mac. You can develop for just about anything, from a little Raspberry Pi to an iOS device, to a Mac machine, to a Windows machine, to just about anything. .NET runs anywhere. It runs in containers and has this brilliant and vibrant ecosystem with developers like you. Now, for me, I love mobile and client development because it enables me to reach 7+ billion devices across the globe. You know, we carry these supercomputers in our pocket, and the adoption of not just Windows and Mac desktop machines, but also iOS and Android devices is growing every single day. And these things are not just supercomputers, but they're AI-infused supercomputers, enabling us to do more than ever, which is amazing. So for me as a developer, I want to reach as many people in the entire world. And at the same time, I also want to be able to possibly, if I desire to at my company or for myself, build and share code with my website and my web applications too. And that's what we'll see today. Because we're invested across the entire stack of mobile and desktop and web development. Whether it's pure native 100% development for Windows with WinUI 3 or WinForms or WPF, we're committed to ensuring that you have the latest and greatest technologies to craft beautiful, vibrant Windows applications. Or go across all the platforms natively with .NET MAUI, or build web apps with Blazor, or hybrid applications with .NET MAUI and Blazor together. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to see all about .NET MAUI and the latest enhancements that we're doing there, and how we're blending these two worlds together to enable you to pick and choose exactly the type of app experiences that you want to create. If you're brand new to .NET MAUI, it's our multi-platform app UI that leverages native UI frameworks under the hood and integrates into the native experiences across Windows, Mac, iOS, and Android. And the architecture is really unique because the architecture itself leverages the fact that there's vibrant .NET runtimes and libraries that can run anywhere. So the .NET runtime, when myself or Glenn was running an app, whether it was in WSL and Linux or on our Windows machine or on our Mac machine, that's because the .NET runtime and the SDKs are there. But the .NET runtimes are on other platforms as well, because the team brings .NET itself to Android, iOS, and to Mac, and basically enables us to create and run native .NET applications directly on those devices. Now, on top of that, the .NET team builds .NET MAUI, which abstracts out common UI controls and APIs for us. So what that means is that .NET for Android, .NET for iOS, and .NET for Mac gives you access to the native APIs of those platforms in C# and creating native UIs with like UI kit, for example, for iOS or Android widget systems, or for Windows, of course, WinUI 3, but we create an abstraction of these controls and APIs that enable you to take advantage of 100% cross-platform code, or you can blend in some native bits of code as well into it, all at the same time leveraging the vibrant .NET runtime and libraries that are built in, and NuGet, of course. And of course, you just write some code. So that's your models, view models, RESTful service calls, SQL database integrations, anything that you want to do with cloud integrations out there. So what's brilliant about .NET MAUI is this single code base with a single project that enables us to do multiple targets. So I can target from one project, an iOS, Android, Mac, and Windows application, share all of my code, all of my UI, all the API integration inside of it, and I get a native application with a native UI and fully accessible controls out of the box. Now, in the box is actually over 60 plus UI controls and layouts and views. So things like images and labels and list views and collection views and borders and frames and rectangles. There's drawing API built into it. You learn one API and it renders the native UI under the box. So for example, on like iOS and Android, that little activity spinner are different controls, right? If you were building this in Swift and in Kotlin, you would use a UI activity indicator and then a progress bar on Android. And then you do the same for Windows and for Mac. And what the MAUI team did is they abstracted it into one single API, and then it did it for a bunch of controls. So things like sliders, for example, have one control that are available to us with a set of common properties and events. So I can invoke and say, start animating, stop animating. I can change the colors of them to make them the same, and I can do that for all of them that are built in. And there's a vast, vibrant ecosystem of control vendors like Syncfusion, Telerik, DevExpress, and amazing community controls as well that really build onto what's in the box. Now, one thing I mentioned were the native APIs, because the great part about building native applications and having a native host is being able to do native things. So taking advantage of app actions to launch into your app, getting access to things like the clipboard or device sensors, connecting to seeing if I'm on Wi-Fi or cellular, or if I'm offline, doing notifications, for example, or geolocation. So with .NET MAUI, because it's built on top of iOS, Android, and Mac binding systems for each platform, you have access to those. So I could go access the same way that Swift developers or Kotlin developers or Windows developers or Mac developers access the clipboard or geolocation. I can learn those different APIs. Now, since a lot of these APIs, just like UI elements, are the same, the team went further than just UI and said, let's go ahead and abstract out common APIs that most developers are going to want to use in their application. So things like clipboard, sensors, file system. So for example, geolocation, all you have to do is learn a single API to access geolocation. So I can get the cached location for get last known location, or make a new geolocation request. One API, and under the hood, it's calling into the native APIs of the platform, just as if I had written it in Swift or in Kotlin, but I'm doing it all in C#. And this has full dependency injection support as well. So I can just use common DI practices. I get an iGeolocation, suck that into my application, and boom, I'm good to go accessing those same exact APIs. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this in action and the native bits and pieces. So I have about 28 Visual Studios open, so that's good. And we'll see how this runs. So I'm going to go here. And the first thing that I'm going to do is actually go into my PowerShell. And there's my dog down there. That's Millie, hanging out. She's always by my side. I'm just going to say .NET workload list. Now, .NET MAUI is distributed as a workload. So if I'm inside of Visual Studio 2022, I can select the .NET MAUI installation, and it'll install everything for me. It'll give me all the Android, iOS, MAUI goodness that I need, and it'll also install other things like Android SDKs and devices and things like that for me. If I'm on a Mac or on a Linux machine, I would just do .NET workload install MAUI, and it would handle whatever I need to on that machine. So here I just have .NET 9, and then I can say .NET info, And then I can see .NET version. There we go. And there, and then .NET info. There we go. Cool. So now I can see I have all the .NETs. Unlike Glenn, I have all of the .NETs installed, all of every single one. And then I can see that I have a bunch of different versions installed. So I can be very descriptive of them, and I can see here's the install location, where these things are located as well. Now, .NET MAUI is distributed as a workload, but also as NuGet packages. So you can continuously upgrade .NET MAUI by just updating the NuGet packages, but this workload kind of gives you the tooling, and it also gives you just the NuGets pulled in automatically. So when I'm here inside of Visual Studio, here I can just say MAUI in my dropdown. And just like we have Aspire templates, we also have .NET MAUI templates. So the first one is the native application, and then we'll talk about the Blazor hybrid one later. But here I'm just going to create a new MAUI app, and I'm going to call it MAUI app 2. That sounds good. And then here, for .NET MAUI, or for anything in .NET, you can select your version of .NET. When it comes to mobile and desktop development, you always want to be on the latest because iOS and Android and Windows are always updating all the time. So the .NET MAUI support policy is actually a little bit different than the .NET support policy. Every version of .NET MAUI is supported for 18 months. So basically always be updating all the time. And that's a lot better than our old Xamarin policy was like, we put out a new version, update, because that's what we support. So if you create this today, this will create a blank project. We also have the sample content. Now, if people have created Blazor or ASP.NET Core web applications and done the sample, like add sample, it's like the weather and the counter and stuff. This sample content is a little bit different. We've partnered with Syncfusion, who's an amazing control vendor. But also, they're a contributor active to the .NET MAUI open source project because everything's open source. And they actually ship a set of free .NET MAUI controls in the Syncfusion .NET MAUI toolkit that developers can use. So it has like all sorts of different buttons and data grids and charts and graphs and all that thing for free. So the sample content is actually a full application. It's a to-do list application. We're going to take a look at it later because I'm a little worried of installing a bunch of NuGet packages right now. So I'm just going to create a blank application. So here it's just going to spin up a new project inside of Visual Studio. Perfect. Cool. And when I get here, we can say I have different learning resources, how to integrate, how to build and deploy to Windows, Android, or iOS. And because I'm here on my Windows machine, I'll be doing Windows and Android development. And because I'm out of ports, because I only have 2 ports on this machine, I'd show iOS where I could plug in my iPhone, but I'm out of ports, so I won't be able to show that, or else nothing will work. But this is pretty cool because now I have a single project, and I have all the different dependencies. So I can see here under Android, I have packages, so I can have diagnostic controls inside of here. And then, if I open up the CS Proj, we can actually see that this project is multi-targeted. So I have a bunch of different targets here for Android, iOS, and Mac. And then inside of here, .NET MAUI also does a few other things. So it, for example, abstracts away application title, the application identifier, the version numbers, the version codes that are available. And then further on, it also enables you to do things such as, it's a little bit long here, but basically specifying how back and how forward you want your iOS and Android versions to be. So basically, it's doing a bunch of MS build magic here and using these different things to say, I want to go all the way back to support iOS 15 or Android 21, and I'm in control of that. It's abstracted it there. But further down, it also abstracts away a lot of common things that we do in mobile and desktop applications, like have splash screens and different images and different fonts and different raw assets and icons. So what the .NET MAUI team is, they said, just give us some SVGs and a little bit of configuration. We'll generate your icon. We'll generate your splash screen. And any image, we'll just take an SVG and we'll convert it to PNGs for you automatically, and we'll scale them for you based on the different operating systems. So if I come over into the Solution Explorer, let me pin this again here, and I go into Resources, we can see I have different app icons. I have fonts that are built in, different images like the dotNET bot. I could put raw assets like PDFs or text files, and I have different styles as well. So here the dotNET MAUI app is giving us a bunch of default styles of our application. So I could go and I could theme this. Right now it's dotNET purple, but one shared resource. Think of it like your CSS. And it also comes with a set of default styles for every control that are built in that are light and dark theme aware as well, which is cool. So the dotNET MAUI app, just like any app pretty much in .NET, has a program CS file. And this is using that builder pattern, that common DI, but it's MAUIified. So here, for example, it's loading up our MAUI app. It's configuring the fonts. And this is where I could configure my dependency injection services or anything else inside my application. Here it's accessing this app, which is sort of like the startup of my application. And this is where it's loading those resources. And then additionally, in the code behind here, it's creating a new window. So dotNET MAUI applications are multi-windowed as well. So if you're on a desktop, you can have as many windows as you want. So here it's just creating the window, and it's creating the shell of my application. So many layers of abstraction. But what we have here is a single shell that does all of our navigation, our routing. You think of it as the nav layout, pretty much, the main layout of our app. And it's going to say, load up this main page of our application. And here, everything by default is signified in XAML, but you can create everything in C# too. So if you don't like XAML, that's okay. I love it. But you can do everything inside of C# too. So here I have some scroll views. I have a vertical stack layout. And here are all of those controls that we have, pretty much. So if I run this application, this is not only going to give me a Windows application, we'll also run it on Android, but it will go ahead and render that image that it's going to find, that .NET-bot.png. It's also added these accessibility properties, the semantic properties, and those are used to ensure accessibility. Because we use .NET MAUI internally at Microsoft, and we want to also ensure that everyone can create inclusive and accessible applications, accessibility is one of the highest priorities from the .NET MAUI team. So we can see the different heading levels here and descriptions that are displayed with screen readers. So here's our .NET MAUI application. It says hello world, and you can say click me, beautiful, awesome. But we'll also note is that if I go back into Visual Studio, I have this preview. It's a live preview of my application, and it's, for all intents and purposes, my application running. You can see it update in real time. And that's really neat, because if you're on a single screen, you could do a bunch of work here. So I could click on this and notice that my cursor goes specifically to the image or to the label. I could open this live property view, and I could look at all the different properties of that label that are coming in. And I could also just go in and just start modifying some code, and it'll just update in real time. So our hot reload is all built in, and it's actually like our real running application, which is cool right there. I can also go into the code behind here. So I'm going to open up the code behind in this little drop down, and we can see that it's updating just +1 every time. So I'm going to say plus equals 10. And then I'm going to hit this hot reload button up here. And that's going to hot reload our C#, our state here. And now whenever I click it, we can see that it's going to update here by 10 every single time, right? So from a developer productivity standpoint, that's pretty cool to be able to do that. Now, if I want to run it on other operating systems, I can do that from the drop down. So here I can see things like Android emulators. I can pick my devices that I want to go to. And if I did have my Mac machine here, I could connect to it remotely and over SSH, basically do a remote build and compilation. And I could actually get a remoted iOS simulator here. Glenn got to have fun, so now I get to have fun with the camera. So here, Visual Studio is automatically picked up that I have an Android emulator here. So I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and run this. And what this is now going to do is it's going to start doing a full Android build. So I ran it on Windows first because it's really fast, because it's on my Windows machine. So I don't have to do any work at all. It just automatically runs and installs it and gets the job done. For Android, it's actually doing native compilation here. So this takes, I don't know, I have like a bajillion Visual Studios open. So we'll see. It usually takes around 30 to 60 seconds for the first build, because it's doing a full compilation of the source code. It's actually bundling it into an Android application, and it's going to communicate to the Android emulator that's running on my machine. So we'll see how fast or how slow it is over here. We can see it's doing, something is happening. So that is good. If I zoom in, look at something is happening. Code is going into this bucket. I think that it's going in, a bunch of bits are going into a bucket. Oh, now something else is happening, and a bunch of files are zooming out of this other file. I don't even know what that means. I'm pretty sure that those visualizations have been in the product so long that nobody knows what they mean or what they do. And why is this bar just completely empty? Nobody knows. But what we can see is that it actually built an Android package. It signed it with the Android jar, which is the Java signer, and it's now detected that it's going to deploy it onto my emulator. So Visual Studio is doing all this hard work for me, and now what it's going to do is it's going to launch my application here. And my emulator is being a little bit funky, but again, being a weird size. I don't know, Visual Android emulators being Android emulators, being weird. I think I changed screen resolution, so now it's a little bit funky and cut off, so that's good. But what we can see is the actual running emulator, so I like that the thing is actually working better right here. But we get this live preview here, and again, I can click on this. I can say hello from Spain, from Android. There we go. And then it just updates in real time as well. And we can see hopefully our running application in our weird, I think maybe I pinched a zoom or something. Weird Android emulator. It's doing its own thing. But now we can see that our application is running here. I can do the same thing with the code and the code behind, and I get everything just like I would imagine. And then if I have this, dark mode. Nope. Well, watch this. We're going to shut this emulator down and reboot it. Because Visual Studio can also boot the emulator if it's not actually detected. Let's start it up here. There we go. Just emulators doing their own things. So now the emulator will start. So that's kind of nice. And if I had my Android device, which is here, I could also plug it into my Windows machine. It will also see it if you have your Android device in developer mode. And then it will just go ahead and boot it up and load it directly onto your device, which is nice. So again, the tooling here is very nice, being able to go in and integrate into this Android ecosystem that's out there. So I had booted this up ahead of time because it takes a little bit of time to start it up. But now we can see that Visual Studio down in the bottom left is already deploying. It hasn't even started yet, but it's like, whatever, I'm just doing it. And now we get the actual proper screen resolution, which is good. Okay, cool. And because I feel like I have to show dark mode, I have to. I feel like it's now a thing that I've made it. We're now going to go ahead and do that. So let's see if I have it. Do I have it here? It's on the last. It's not on the last page. Where is it? Come on, Android emulator. You got it. It's going to be dark. Drag it up it. There we go. Cool. All right. It's there. Okay, cool. Now we're going to tap it in. Come on, Android. You got it. Oh, there it is. And it works. Boom. Amazing. Woo! Yes, dark mode. It's built in. It's amazing. Okay, cool. So, and then Bluetooth is like that. So now we get it. It's all responsive. It all works as assumption. And that would work on any operating system, which is cool. Now, you notice that the theme looked the same. But actually, if you actually look at this, you get a little tiniest of ripples here. And you can kind of see that little ripple kind of happening a little bit. It's hard to see, but you kind of, and that's because it's using an Android button. It's using Android Material Design because it's a native control, which is really cool. Okay, so this is pretty neat in general, but let's say I wanted to go do something a little bit more. So I've created a new project, just like I did before, but I've gone ahead and I called it My Monkey App Spain. And what I did here is I added my Copilot instructions. So I said, hey, this is a dotNET MAUI application. Use the built-in styles. Use MVVM because I like it. Use some dependency injection. And I've also configured an MCP server, which is my monkey MCP server. This is one that I built. It's on my GitHub. It's at that GitHub/JamesMontemagno/monkey MCP. And this is running on my machine. So what's cool is in Visual Studio, I can see right here that I have my GitHub Copilot stuff here on my monkey MCP. So I can say, give me a list of monkeys using the monkey MCP. Let's see if that works. So this should, again, if my internet's working, should go off and, fingers crossed. There we go, cool. Hopefully go get me a list of monkeys. So my monkey MCP server should be able to go get a list of monkeys. Ooh, that's not looking good. When in doubt, I could always tether. Oh, things are happening. All right, I like it. Okay, so this project right now is basically nothing. So it just is the same project here. So nothing fancy there. So let's see if our internet is going to work. Else I'm totally going to tether. Oh my gosh. Okay, it's happening. It's happening. We're ripping out. Don't do what I just did. That was a bad, terrible idea. Okay, where's my, see everyone else is tethering too. So that's good. Okay. The only problem would be is like if my phone doesn't show up then that's also, then whatever I just did was like terrible. Okay, Pixel, perfect. About 1 gig of data just for today. Perfect, okay. Let's see if this works. Okay, hopefully this is much, much faster, we'll see. And it works perfectly, cool. So this is gonna call my monkey MCP server, which is it's just something that I like to create, everything with monkeys. And this is just gonna go off and get me a list of monkeys here. And here it is. So a bunch of monkeys. That's not super useful, but I could say, what is the data scheme of these monkeys? Okay, so I'm asking it questions. Okay, so it knows that it actually returned a bunch of monkey details here. So name, location, details, etc., which is cool. And if I actually scroll up in this list, it says that it ran the get monkeys here, and I could see the results, so that's good. I could say, okay, cool. So I could say, use this sample data and update the main page to display the list of monkeys in a collection view and create the models and such. You know what to do. Cool. I don't know. Who knows? I don't even. Anyway, so it's now going to search my code base. Now, I've given it a little bit of information. I've told it here in my instructions that I really like my view models in the view models folder, the views in the views folder, and the models in the models folder. So ideally, if my tethering is working, we should see that I get a new monkey. I get a monkey view model here. I haven't done this at all, but I didn't try this at all ahead of time, so I'm just going to see if it works. But we're also getting a bunch of code written for us. It's all happening, right? Everything's happening in real time. Okay, this looks like it's doing stuff. It's looking for errors. So one thing about Copilot is it can build for errors, it can test for errors. It's going to build our project here. So what it's created for us is a new monkey file, which is cool. So there's our monkey. Awesome. That looks good. It's created us a monkey view model, also cool, with a bunch of sample data. I love that for us. That's cool. Let me go and drop this down. So here's our monkey data that's coming in. And it used it from the MCP server. So I connected to a data source and I pulled that in. Very minimal. It just has a list of monkeys. So I like that. And then it updated our page. I kind of put a collection view inside of it. It's not my favorite thing I would ever say, so we'll probably clean that up. So I'm just going to keep that. Okay. So let's go into our main page. And let's just go ahead and delete a bunch of stuff, because I don't want that. And I don't want that. Oops, I do want that. Cool. All right. And then the one thing I'm going to do is just delete a little bit of code behind here. Perfect. Cool. All right. So it is now building our project over here. So it should be building the solution. I was looking for errors. It's finding some errors. Oh, it actually modified my code. I modified the code. It modified the code. It's updating the code. That's convenient. Okay, cool. Amazing. And now it's doing some different building, right? So this is really nifty when I'm just going in and I'm scaffolding a lot of objects and items inside of it. And then, yeah, ideally it's like building my project and seeing what it's going to do. That looks good. I'm just going to stop it, and I'm just going to assume that everything works perfect. So let's see. So let's come over here. Let's go to our main page. All right, cool. Let's run it, and let's see if we have monkeys. I have no idea. We'll just blindly assume that this is going to work perfect out of the box. But I wanted to show like actually integrating in these different data services into our application, having it scaffold out code for us, and creating something from scratch. Amazing. I'm a developer. You're a developer. We're all developers. Amazing. Look at that. It's so cool. I don't know. Just did it. Now, I can now refine it, right? And I just used ChatGPT 4.1, so it did it really fast, which is really cool. So here's all of our monkeys. Here's Sebastian. Here's Sebastian. Whoa, Sebastian Inception. Amazing. Mooch is actually around taking photos all over Madrid with my wife, which is cool. Okay, boom. Look at that. I created an app in seconds. Amazing. Now, what's really neat about this is that that is sort of the native bits and pieces. And we talked a little bit about the native bits and flow of it, but half of this talk was all about hybrid development. So what does that mean? Well, I just showed building 100% native UI. So everything that collection view was using a native collection view, was using a native recycler view on Android, and a native list view and things on Windows that I was running on. But we want to give you choice. In fact, we want .NET MAUI to be the most flexible, multi-platform development selection that you have available. Because we want to give you both the depth of going deep into the operating system and accessing native APIs and controls, but blend it with that reach of web content and building websites with Blazor or even HTML and JavaScript. And in the middle, that hybrid application gives you that sweet spot of mixing and matching as much or as little as you want. So what's neat about this is that Blazor basically just extends .NET MAUI and adds a Blazor web view that you have available. It enables you to leverage all of the great things in .NET MAUI that are available, but also enables you to blend in web content. But because .NET MAUI runs .NET, you don't need any internet connection. I could just turn off the Wi-Fi and I'd be good to go, because it is bundling everything into the application and running your Blazor code on the .NET MAUI .NET runtime. And that means you can now leverage all of the MAUI goodness, all those community packages, and everything from the Blazor ecosystem. And you can still leverage everything from .NET MAUI's multi-platform extraction, and then you can distribute it everywhere for any app store, anything that you want. So this now gives you that flexibility of mixing and matching as much or as little, and of course use all the tools of Visual Studio or VS Code. So what this looks like is that if you are building a web application with Blazor today, you'd have your Blazor application here on the left, and your MAUI application on the right, and you blend in your Razor class library and your Blazor UI directly into it using those shared Razor components. And what's really cool is there's a full template available to just do file new MAUI Blazor web project. It gives you your MAUI project, it gives you your Blazor project, and your shared code. And we'll take a look at that here right now. So I'm going to go back in to this project. I'm going to say File, New Project. And now, if I zoom in, we're going to see I have this MAUI Blazor hybrid app, but I also have this MAUI Blazor hybrid app and web app. We just wanted to make the templates as long as possible, but it's very in the name. It's a hybrid app with .NET MAUI and a web app too. So this gives you 3 different projects. So I'm just going to call it MAUI app. I'm going to use .NET 9. I can select the web applications render mode. So again, the MAUI app with Blazor doesn't care. But here I'm just going to say use Blazor server for the web application. I could use Blazor WebAssembly for the app or mixed mode. But what this gives me is 3 projects. The first project is just my MAUI app. So this here is just the same exact project as before. It It has all the different resources like app icons and different properties. It has these platform folders that I didn't show you, but this is actually the Android and iOS specific boot up code that's necessary. But what it also does is it still has this Maui program file, but the difference is that we now add the Maui Blazor web view to it, which is really neat. And we add Blazor web view developer tooling. Now here, we still have this app that has a few different styles in it, but mostly what's happening is it's loading this main page. So instead of having a bunch of native controls, like those images, labels, and buttons, we give it a Blazor web view. And we say this Blazor web view here is just gonna open up and launch this built-in index.html, and we're gonna load this component, which is our main routes. So this here, this is basically telling us, hey, here's the CSS for this application, and also what to do in here. So we can see it's Blazor web view.js. Oh, not ready. Oh, not ready. Okay, you tell me. So anyways, what's important is that this is not Blazor WebAssembly. It's not Blazor server. This is a special web view.js. And what will happen is when I run this application, this is going to boot up the Maui shell, and inside of it put a Blazor web view, and it's going to run any of my C# code inside of the Maui runtime, okay? And we can see that here because this is just booting up this one Blazor web view. And on each platform, it uses the native web control. So web view 2, for example, here. So here we can see that this is the hello world. We have a counter. We have a weather application. And then here we can see this is running on the desktop using WinUI 3. So what's neat about this is I still get this developer productivity here. But if I go into my Maui program, we can see that I have this form factor. So this is cool. So here, our UI components and our shared code don't live in Maui app 3. It lives in this shared code. So here's my counter, here's my home, all right here. So this is that home. And here I'm injecting an I form factor, and we're basically saying, give me the form factor and the platform it's running on. So this is neat because I've basically told it that I want to access some native APIs. Now, I need to tell it how to do it on the web versus on Maui. So if I look at the Maui project, I can look at my services, and I have a form factor. And this, again, is now tapping into native APIs using the .NET Maui APIs for the device idiom, like desktop, and the platform here with the version string. So this is really neat. Now, if I stop this, and I go over to my web application, and I set this as my startup project, and I load this up, we'll see that this is just a standard Blazor server application. The difference over here is that it's adding its own form factor implementation, and then it is loading the additional assembly from the shared code. So here, when I go into components, there is like imports and error pages and app razor, just a little bit. So if I zoom in here, there's a few things. So just for the Blazor server application, but it's loading all of the pages from here. So all of the main navigation, all the layouts here. If I open up that page, here it is. It's the same exact application, but we can see that it's running on the web using Windows, just like we'd expect here. So that's how it's running there. Now in this case, for the Blazor application, the form factor is always returning the web because it's always on the web, and then it's just using environment.os version. So that's able to just return those from .NET. So what could you build with something like this now that we kind of know how this is? Well, I have another sample application here, which is open source on my GitHub. And I have my simple Blazor web app. And what I've done is instead of creating a web app and a shared code, I just put all the code inside of the Maui app, because that's also an option. You can just jam it all in there. So if you're like, I'm not developing web apps, I don't care about the web app, you don't have to develop a web app. It's up to you. Me, I don't do websites too often, but when I do, I'm doing with Blazor. But often I'm just building Maui applications because that's my preferred development platform. So here I just shoved in a bunch of components to create a calculator. Now, I didn't create any calculator code because I would not waste my keystrokes that are precious developing this. I just told Copilot to do it, so let's see what it did. So here, when I run this, we can see that I have, again, the Maui Blazor web view. I have a calculator service here. I have my hello world, and then I've just added a nice calculator. So 5 times 8 equals 40. Down here, I have a view history. Wow, beautiful. I could clear the history. I could click around. I could see these things. 5 times 5, beautiful. 25, history, it's there. So that's all pulling it there, which is nice. And I see my application UI here too. And I could hot reload. I could do everything that I would expect. Now, if I also wanted to, I could, of course, run this on Android. So let me just go ahead and boot this up here. And while that's compiling and doing stuff, we can see that I have just standard sort of calculator code here. So I can note that I have standard buttons and numbers and CSS that's being loaded here. I have because you have to apparently have a DI service for a calculator service here. That's what Copilot's created. And how to do math. So it has add to history. So it creates a history read-only item. And it figures out how to do the calculator history for us automatically. And then it's just running and executing some code. So it handles the number entry, handles the operator. So standard Razor goodness out of the box, which is great. I don't know what's okay, we can see that things are happening. Things are compiling. I think I may have accidentally closed my emulator. I don't know what happened there. Let's cancel this build. Let's try it one more time. Okay, there it goes. And it really wants to be up there. It's like, I'm up there. Okay, perfect. So things are really happening now. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so it's doing that full native compilation. It's doing the signing here. And then it is going through this. And I have 8 minutes. Perfect. We started a little late, so I know things are running a little behind. Okay, so it's going to deploy this. And hopefully what you'll see is that we're getting the same exact look and feel of that Blazor application, but on my Android device. Now, in this case, it's just using Bootstrap, because that's what's included with the Blazor templating. But you can use anything that you want. So if you want Fluent or MudBlazor or anything like that, because it's just a Blazor application, basically at the end of the day. Okay, it's deploying up. Perfect. Beautiful splash screen. Awesome. And now we get our hello world. It's using that standard CSS. I can go to the calculator, 5 times 5, boom, good, view history, good to go, right? It's the same exact code. Now in this case, this is using a web control. So this is the Android web view that is sitting here that I'm communicating. Now I can do standard Blazor stuff like communicate back and forth to JavaScript if I wanted to, load JavaScript libraries, all that goodness that I would expect and want to do. The same exact thing would work here, which is quite nice. Now, the other thing that I'm able to do, though, is I'm able to blend the worlds of dotNET MAUI and Blazor together. So here, when I was just using the main page, it was basically just creating not this one, the main page. It was just using basically that routes component here. But I can use a native tabbed page for iOS, Android, Mac, or Windows, and I could put in multiple Blazor web views. So I could have one page for the calculator and one for the history. So here what I'll do is instead of creating the main page, I'm going to create a tabbed page, tabbed main page. There we go. That's what I called it. Perfect. And now I'm just going to go ahead and run this on Windows. Okay. And this tabbed page that I've created, so here's the name of it, tabbed main page, is now going to load multiple tabs, native controls, and then render them out here with 2 different Blazor web views, which is quite cool. So let's go ahead and have this boot up here. All right. Awesome. Okay. So now I get my calculator, and of course I would clean it up. I probably wouldn't put a title there. I could say 5 times 5, 25. I can then tap on history, and there it is. So I get this native sort of look and feel, and I could do collapsible, I could do flyouts, and I could integrate these together, right? Which is very nice. I could add light theme and dark theme support, but that would be in CSS, and we're not going to do that today, but it would totally work. I'll have Copilot do it later. Okay. So that's pretty cool if you know Blazor. How many of you are using Blazor today at all? Quite a few. How many of you are just doing like React or Angular or Vue because you love HTML and you love JavaScript and you love the frameworks changing all the time? Perfect. Well, you can do that too. Because dotNET MAUI with hybrid not only has Blazor hybrid support, but also has a brand new control called the hybrid web view. And this enables you to load any HTML and CSS with any different web framework as well. So you can load your entire React application, your entire Vue application, or just jam on some good old HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's so good. Now, the difference here is that it's just going to be HTML and JavaScript, right? And you could invoke back and forth from JavaScript and C# with a new API that's built in, but it's going to use the same ideas of Blazor, but it's going to basically create the native container, and then it's going to give you the native control. So here, actually, that to-do items 3 is a native label. And then it's going to put in a web view, and this is a React.js application, the to-do application. So what this means is you have choice and flexibility when it comes to using Blazor, JavaScript with any framework, or all the native controls. So you can mix and match. You can just go crazy. Live your life. Whatever you want. Do it. Okay, so let's see the same exact application, but I have another version of it. Now again, because I don't write code, I was just told Copilot to go crazy. I said go crazy with it. So it went in, and here I have the same exact stuff. So I have, in this case, a hybrid web view developer tools, and here I just have a hybrid web view. It's built in. Now what's neat is that I can also send messages back and forth to JavaScript and back and forth to C#, which is really neat. So it's created an index.html. So look at this, it's beautiful. It's beautiful buttons, and there's history, all sorts of good stuff. It's created all this JavaScript, so math, just look at this math. It's happening. So much good math. Math. Let's just go ahead and run it. So this is still going to be a MAUI application, but in this instance, it's just going to be running a bunch of CSS and HTML. So I can go in, I can say 8 times 8. Boom. Get the little history right here, which is pretty cool. I can say 2 plus 2. Amazing. 5 times 5. Oh, do I want to celebrate? Oh, probably. What is that? So what just happened? So this is neat. So inside my JavaScript, because I wanted to show this off over here, I added a little bit of code which says if it's 25, send a message to our native UI and ask it to celebrate. So here in the code behind, I look for the message and I use the native display alert to say, do you want to celebrate? Of course I want to celebrate. Let's do it. And if I look at what's going to happen, it's going to send a message back to JavaScript. And up here, it is going to trigger confetti. Because if you don't have confetti in all of your applications, you're not living, right? So what I'm doing here is I'm taking all the JavaScript, right, and embedding it into my application and running it natively here, which is super duper cool. So that's awesome. So now you have this flexibility of picking and choosing exactly what you want to do. Okay, last few minutes here. When it comes to AI development, Glenn talked quite a bit about being able to build intelligent applications, all with .NET and the SDKs, and infusing them into your entire workflow with world-class developer tools. Now, what's really cool is that you can actually take your application today, infuse it with all the things that dotNET MAUI has and all of the different AI technologies that are out there to build AI applications or infuse your existing apps. So for example, this is the file new when I check that checkbox. It's a to-do application. Now, it's really neat because it gives you a full project management, task, and to-do items that are inside of there. So here I can add new tasks into the application. Awesome. Turn on different stuff. But we can transform this into sort of like the app of tomorrow. So I've configured here OpenAI services, and I'm going to create a new project this was when I was in Seattle, to tour downtown Seattle. And now what's going to happen is it's going to go off and use OpenAI in Azure to recommend different tasks for me, right? So it knows about me, it knows about Seattle, it knows about my hardware and the projects that I want to do, so it can recommend services for me. I can also have it come in, and I can have it recommend different projects. So it can greet me here. So it can greet me, look at my different projects, different tasks, and basically order them and sort them automatically using the built-in APIs of Microsoft Extensions AI and our Azure SDKs. You can use other things, for example, like document scanning, Here, for example, maybe I want to go off and scan a document, and I wanted to create the task list from that. So I'll use the built-in Azure services, take a photo, and then it'll recommend that recipe for me to how to create those things. Or I could enable communication inside my application. With the built-in APIs of dotNET MAUI, I have the capabilities of speaking directly to my applications, having it then process them, and since it knows about me, it knows about what my application is, it can then recommend things based on it, right? So here, I'm gonna ask about a project, and it's gonna recommend back different things to do, which is really neat. So when we think about this, it's all about creating our applications that are more personalized, context-aware, and multimodal. Take advantage of these supercomputers that are in your pocket. dotNET MAUI gives you everything built into one thing. It gives you access to all those UI controls, but it gives you access to create beautiful adaptive UI and then infuse it with context awareness. It knows about your calendar, it knows about your context, it knows about your location. It knows how to access your biometrics, your voice, your text, your vision, the device sensors. And then you can take advantage of these services like Azure AI Foundry, Olam, and Onyx, and built these things automatically. And it uses the same exact different pieces of technology to just simply give it an API key, whether it's in your back end or in your front end, of course securely, talk to chat clients that are going off and pulling in different information. You could even call MCP tools if you were building a desktop application to communicate to MCP servers, all built in as well. You could go off and you could build your own services to do things for your company, maybe check different HVAC systems or location and distance thresholds. It's easy to kind of pull it all together with a simple API like I showed in the keynote to easily go off and say, give me all of my different priority tasks automatically back based on this prompt and awareness. It's easy to do and easy to get started. And even better, some of these different, more complex operations like voice sampling are simplified with plugins from the community. Just simply create a recording, start it asynchronously. Takes care of the hard work for you. Take a photo, it's built right in, automatically. Now what's great is if you're just getting started and you want to explore these things, there's great open source projects, but of course, you can just ask Copilot anytime about anything that you need to do. It'll recommend it for you. It's not only your coding assistant, it gives you everything built in. I showed the MCP server stuff earlier, so I'm not going to show that again. Boom, cool. Everything's available in Visual Studio. It's also available in Visual Studio Code with the dotNET MAUI extension. So think of dotNET MAUI as your entire app platform that's fully customizable, fully flexible with whatever you want to do. dotNET 9 launched back in November, and there's tons of amazing things built in. And the MAUI team has been working nonstop, along with Syncfusion and the community, to do tons of stuff. dotNET MAUI itself is growing at a rapid pace with nearly 20% year-over-year adoption. The team is rapidly iterating on pull requests, merging issues, creating different things, and really reducing the amount of overload for developers to get started. And we've seen great adoption of MAUI and the hybrid tech from entire industries all over the world. So some of these names you might see. One of the most interesting projects is actually the Fidelity application and their brand new Windows and Mac application. That's their entire active trader platform built completely in dotNET MAUI. So hopefully today I've shown you a little bit of what exactly dotNET MAUI is, accessing the native capabilities, and then how to blend in hybrid, not only Blazor UI, but also web UI as well. So build how you want to build. Come join us at .NET Conf when .NET 10 and all sorts of new dotNET MAUI goodies will be launched. And with that, I'll be around, and thank you so much.